Here's the thought experiment. What if there were breaking news in the Russia investigation and nobody much cared? Well, it's not a theoretical question. It actually happened when the Senate Judiciary Committee released a couple thousand pages of transcripts of interviews, testimony having to do with that infamous 2016 Trump Tower meeting with the Russian lawyer, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump Jr., and Paul Manafort. Now, this has been extensively covered, and it was a very big deal at the time, even though nothing came of it. You'll recall this was the meeting where a PR guy pitched the president's son, saying this Russian lawyer had dirt, quote, dirt on Hillary Clinton. He said, "I love it." And they got together, and there was no dirt, and it was about something else. And that was about it, except the administration made it worse by putting out some sort of limited and misleading explanations. So now that we have access to this, I mean, I went through this, and boy, it was really hard to find a headline. It was all very incremental. For example, so Donald Trump Jr. told the committee that he did not discuss this meeting with the Russian lawyer, either before the meeting took place or even afterwards. Rob Goldstone, this is the sort of colorful tabloid music promoter who arranged the meeting. He asked for another meeting a few months later. He got blown off. He thought the meeting was an embarrassment. In fact, there's a great text here from him, from Goldstone. 20 years of reputation basically destroyed by this dumb meeting. Don Jr. himself said, all other things being equal, I wouldn't have wanted to waste 20 minutes hearing about this. And there were efforts to talk about whether or not, for example, President Trump was involved in drafting the initial response once the New York Times did disclose the meeting. This is after Trump became president. Don Jr. said he hadn't discussed it with his father, as I said. He thinks his father might have weighed in through Hope Hicks. So all of that, very incremental, and I think it kind of sums up where we are now in this investigation. I mean, the media are always interested. The media follow this obsessively. They are fixated on the Russia investigation, and sometimes the probe produces big news. Indictment of Manafort, the guilty plea of Mike Flynn, and so on. But I think when you step back and take a look at it, I think the public interest is fading because it's gone on now 1 year anniversary of Robert Mueller's investigation, because there hasn't been any big news coming in recent months. Obviously, we don't know what Mueller has. He might produce more. And I think it's just becoming background noise. I think a lot of people are kind of tuned out. The whole thrust of it, collusion with Russia, we haven't had much evidence of that. It's kind of shifted to possible obstruction of justice, as you know. And also what happened almost simultaneously with this Judiciary Committee document dump was that the Senate Intel Committee came out and said, we agree with the U.S. intelligence community that Russia meddled in the 2016 election, targeted helping Trump, hurting Hillary. Okay, is there anybody in America who doesn't already know that? So I think these incremental stories, they produce a lot of segments and people write about it. But I think it's not breaking through anymore, barring some dramatic disclosure. The only really remaining mystery here is all of the chatter about will President Trump sit down with Mueller for an interview or not, depending on what the latest interview with Rudy Giuliani says. And I think what's fascinating here is that public attention have shifted to other things, including the Stormy Daniels case, the revelation that the president has now put on his financial disclosure form, the $130,000 payment, the reimbursement to Michael Cohen for hush money. Michael Avenatti, Stormy's lawyer, being on TV sometimes 6-7 times a day. It's a lot more public interest than that. For one thing, it's a lot simpler to understand. It's more salacious. You can run pictures of Stormy. But I think in terms of public interest, if not the media's interest, the Russian collusion narrative, unless there's a dramatic breakthrough, really seems to be fading. And at some point, we in journalism may want to ask, why did we devote so many thousands of hours, so many thousands of hours of airtime, so many thousands of column inches to an investigation that whatever indictments it may have returned didn't ultimately answer the question or didn't ultimately make the case about candidate Donald Trump? I'm not holding my breath until those questions are asked.